Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Status Podcast. This is your host, Nate the Great. And, sorry, I just got a weird text message. Redo. This is your host, Nate the Great, and I am going to be reacting to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions football game, first football game of the season. Well, besides preseason, but that's besides the point. And that game ended in a 21-20 final score of the football game for the Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs. And no Tyreek Hill, no Chris Jones. We'll get to that in a second. So really, that just meant Andy Reid. No Eric Bieniemy. He's over with the Commanders. Defense, they added some pieces. Now for the Lions, on the other hand, they ended up sending after Jamal Williams. Released. He became free agent, signed with the Saints. Then they ended up signing David Montgomery. Now, running game for both teams wasn't really impressive today, because you have Kansas City, who Kansas City, they've always haven't been known for their running game. What tends to happen is they tend to, when Patrick Mahomes throws to Travis Kelce or throws to another receiver and ends up getting the win through that. Have a passing game on both sides of the football were really where the stats were really where everything went down. Now, how the game ended was a punt return, and then basically after the Lions had possession of the football, David Montgomery wouldn't get like these big rushes, but would rush for a few yards, and then that would be the end of the play. Rush for another 3 or 4 more yards, and that would be the end of the play. And then that was before Jared Goff ended up taking the knee. I guess really that brings into my first point here. I really don't think that as time goes on, the season goes on, Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to be the primary starter later on in the season. However, David Montgomery, I think he's going to be used more as a running back to get that first down. If all you need is 3 or 4 more yards, he can get you that. And so I wasn't really a fan of them sending off Jamal Williams and just not signing Jamal Williams to another, just letting him go. But David Montgomery, I think that after watching this game, per se, I kind of liked that addition a little bit more than I did before seeing this. Now, David Montgomery, in this game, he did have a touchdown. He had 21 carries for 74 yards. Again, I think he's going to be used more as a running back that can get you that extra first down when needed. Now, Kansas City Chiefs, they didn't have Chris Jones or Travis Kelce, which in this one was. In this one, I think really that's. I think if both those players were in, if either one of those two players were in, I think they probably would have won. Travis Kelce was down. I don't think he's going to be down for the whole season, but I think he'll probably be back by next week. Chris Jones, on the other hand, he's not, as some of you know, as what's been talked about on the ASAP Network in the past. He doesn't. He's willing to sit out till week 8 if all he's really asking for is not really a max contract extension, not for big money, the highest paid player of his position. But I think all he's really wanting is just to get a pay raise. And I don't even think Kansas City's willing to do that. Patrick Mahomes, he got the contract. He got, I don't want to say big contract, but he got the suitable contract for what he is. Travis Kelce, same thing. And I think you're going to see the same thing with another one of their offensive linemen, which I'm forgetting his name right now, off the top of my head. But they sent off Travis Kelce. And if this continues to go down the rabbit hole it is, you might see Chris Jones send to another team at the end of the season. Now, I understand Chris Jones' side of this. Where I understand Chris Jones' side of this, where he just wants a pay raise and that's it. He's not asking for much. But on the flip side, I don't really think that I don't really think holding out, not playing football, is the right call for him. Not willing to hold out for as long as he possibly can, just because he didn't want to get just because he wants a pay raise and he's not getting one. I don't really agree with that. Now, why he wants the pay raise, I do, because you just have the Bosa from the 49ers, which late at night forgetting names again, who just got a max deal the other day. So that is a whole lot more than what Chris Jones is making currently. So I can kind of see where he's coming from, but I don't really necessarily agree with that. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the team stats for the day. Again, I told you that the big reason why the Lions won, most of their yards really came from the passing game. Although they did have a 30, their 108. They do have 118 rushing yards to Kansas City's 90. Usually, when I go and look through these games, whoever tends to run the football a lot more, especially when you get around playoff time, they've been winning. Now, it's not the case all the time, but some of the time, that's usually how people win it, is the running game. But there were some things that I didn't think were. I just thought were a little bit weird. Kansas City were able to get some of the third down, 3 and outs that to Detroit, and there was a bad call by the Lions coach towards the end of the game, and so there were some things that were a little bit weird. Now, interesting stats. Patrick Mahomes never has thrown an interception in a week 1 game of his career until now. Marcus Valdes-Scantling only caught the ball twice this entire game. Didn't have much of a showing. And yeah, I think that basically sums up end of me talking about this. I do have one other NFL topic that I wanted to cover before I finish out the show, which is breaking down some of the week 1 picks. Even though I didn't actually post this on Facebook, in which I realized I didn't until it was too late, I do have text evidence that I did actually pick the Detroit Lions to win over the Kansas City Chiefs game today because Travis Kelce was down hurt. So I'm going to go. So that is a 1-0 for me. Cincinnati Bengals, they play against the Cleveland Browns tomorrow. Joe Burrow, he was hurt earlier in the preseason, just before preseason. That took he was out some time because of that. However, it doesn't matter who the starting quarterback is. Joe Burrow, I think, will be playing against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday, but it doesn't matter who the starting quarterback is. I think Cleveland's going to win this one. Simply because Cincinnati usually with their seasons, they tend to go off on a slower start. We saw that last year where Cincinnati had some losses where they really shouldn't have, and they still ended up making all the way to the AFC Championship game. So I have the Bengals losing the Browns. Ravens, Texans, I'm actually picking Baltimore to win this one. Houston's my number 1 overall draft pick this year. Don't see them winning a single game. Buccaneers, Vikings, again, we haven't actually hit a close game yet so far. Vikings and the Buccaneers, I think both will have a much worse season than last year. Vikings have been very quietly turning it down to threads. So they're not going to, I don't think, really since the schedule came out for the Minnesota Vikings, they've been sending off and trading people. Or cutting people if they're not getting any trade offers that they want to. But that being said, they're going up against Tampa Bay, and I feel the exact same way about Todd Bowles that I do about Josh Jacobs. However, with Baker Mayfield as a starting quarterback compared to Jimmy Garoppolo, compared to Tom Brady, what they had last year. I'm sorry, I don't see how they can I don't see how they can beat Tampa Bay. Now Carolina is going up against Atlanta, and Atlanta did a weird thing, and they didn't start any of their starters in the preseason. That being said, Carolina, on the other hand, is Carolina, on the other hand, they went on a, I don't want to say rebuild, but everything is new. Their coach isn't a first time head coach, but it's new head coach into the team, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. I don't want to say first time, but new to the team. And now this is going to look ugly on both sides of the ball. First actual NFL game for Bryce Young. I can see I think Carolina's going to catch some losses that early. But I have both teams making the playoffs this year, which means I think even though Carolina, I'm not really impressed on them early, I think they're going to come back and end up making a wild card appearance. I got Atlanta winning this one. That was the first one where I can actually say I can see that one being a tight game. Arizona versus Washington. Now you're going back into this. I don't think it's going to be close at all. I got Commanders. Sam Howell is there. I really like him on that roster. Eric Bieniemy, they have a new offensive coordinator. They got a lot to like. I got the Commanders. The Jaguars, they're going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Colts, new quarterback, that kind of stuff. I have them Jaguars actually losing to Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts. I don't really like saying that, but I do. They tend to. Whoever usually has the home field advantage is usually who wins between the two of these. And I think that's going to be the same. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going up against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers, they... How to explain this? The 49ers have two starting quarterbacks on their NFL roster, which means they really don't have any. Okay, what I mean by that is they traded off Trey Lance for a 4th round draft pick, which I'll probably get to that on a later show. But now they're going up against a tough Pittsburgh team, which they don't have a lot of high-end impressive talent outside of, there's TJ Watt. TJ Watt, there's this, but they have a lot of, they draft really well. Now, talking about their receivers, their number one isn't really impressive as a number one, but they have probably one of the best receiving depths in the league, and I don't even think that's even close. Well, no, I take that back. There's Seattle. And then there's Cincinnati, too. So the three of those, I don't even outside of the three of those, I don't see in any league where their receivers. I like the depth as much as I do with Pittsburgh, outside of Seattle and Cincinnati. So I have them beating the San Francisco 49ers. Tennessee Titans are going up against the New Orleans Saints. Ryan Tannehill is more of a tight end guy. I think he is going to throw to Chigaquanko as their number one. I don't want to say receiver, but their number one receiving weapon on the field. There's Derrick Henry out in the backfield. He's going to get his carries. However, he's getting up there in age. And they also have DeAndre Hopkins. But on the flip side, he's the same age that Julio Jones was when Julio got traded from Atlanta to Tennessee. And there was a sudden drop-off when he got to Tennessee. And DeAndre Hopkins is more of a physical, demanding wide receiver. So I think early on, you might see DeAndre Hopkins have breakout games. But he's not D-Hop that he was. I think those days are over. Now they're going up against the New Orleans Saints team, which I have as the number 2 seed in the NFC. I don't see how Tennessee can escape this. New Orleans, I'm taking New Orleans. Next is the Broncos and the Raiders. There's a lot I don't like for both of those teams. Broncos ended up getting Sean Payton from the New Orleans Saints by trade, which I thought was weird. I feel like they gave up way too much for the trade. They brought a lot of pieces that I really like, adding in Mike McGlinchey, Ben Powers to help with that offensive line. You know, they added in Zach Allen, Frank Clark, but they didn't draft well at all. And they drafted 5 picks, which is not impressive. Broncos receivers kept getting hurt left and right. Jerry Jeudy out. Now, the one Broncos receiver they did draft this year, Marvin Mims, which is Marvin Mims, and there's plenty of receivers, in my opinion, I think they could have taken over Marvin Mims. Now you're asking him to maybe possibly not be the number 1, but at least be a starter day 1, because now they only have 4 healthy wide receivers on that roster, and not all of them are healthy. AJ Hamler, I don't want to say he's cut, but he's cut due to illness. Jerry Jeudy out. You have Courtland Sutton, but he's getting up. I want to say he's getting up there in age, but he's definitely had some injuries in the past. And so, and I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Atlanta. But what I'm about to say, I feel the same way about Denver that Atlanta that I do about Denver. Expect this season for Denver to be a whole lot on their running game. They brought in Samaje Perine in the backfield for a reason. And Javonte Williams, I don't know what to expect from him, but the two of them together are going to get a lot of carries, get a lot of rushes. Now going to Atlanta, it's Cordell Patterson and Bijan Robinson. that I feel like are also going to get a lot of carries. Not to mention, there's also they have some more they have some other running backs as well on that squad for Atlanta. Oh, let's move on. Oh, I forgot to talk about the Raiders. The Raiders, on the other hand, I like the roster for the Raiders this year. Although they made a lot of decisions where I'm not sure what in the world they're doing, but they also made decisions where I also really like what they're doing. They let Derek Carr go, which I didn't really. Then they bring in then they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo from the San Francisco 49ers, who we weren't even sure he was going to get past his physical. And which honestly made no sense to me whatsoever. And they also trade Darren Waller. You know, he had his injuries in the past, but he's also one of the best tight ends in the league. He's not Travis Kelce good. He's pretty high up there. Fantasy wise, I would probably say he's number 2, even over George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson. However, they did bring in Jacoby Myers, which I feel like fits that system a lot. They did draft really well on their defensive side, bringing in Tyrese Wilson. Then this goes back into coaching. And I said this with the Bucks too. Both of those guys, both head coaches, Todd Bowles, and both the coaches for the Raiders and for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not very locker room friendly, which is going to drive people a lot. And now, next time I go live, which I'm going to say this now, it's probably going to be Saturday evening doing a play-by-play. When there's a commercial break, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about Chandler Jones, because I have some things to say about that. But I don't really like what I don't. There's a lot of problems with both of these two squads. That being said, I have Denver winning this, and I think this is probably going to be the ugliest game by both squads. Would it shock me if Raiders pull off with a win? Not at all. Not at all. And that all has to do with one person in the NFL and one person only. That is Russell Wilson. Sunday. Now this, by the way, I forgot to mention that was the first 125 game of the afternoon set. Now let's go into Philly and New England. New England, their schedule's brutal this year. Their schedule is brutal. They go out at home. Go out and face the Philadelphia Eagles team, who made the Super Bowl last year against New England, and New England let go of Jacoby Myers. Don't really agree with that. I don't really like that pick at all. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster as his backup. Weird. Brought him from the Chiefs. And then they did make some moves here and there. But then you go out and you get absolutely destroyed against the Houston Texans first preseason game. And that tells me one thing about New England. Ever since Tom Brady left, New England has not drafted well. Not one bit. I think it may not be this year, but I think the days of Bill Belichick being a sub 500 coach are coming close to an end. But on the flip side, and for those that are watching right now currently, I'm gonna go ahead and just read out the schedule. For those that are in the comments, I want you to tell me their record after I read off the schedule. They play Philadelphia first week of the season. And they play that at home. Then they go off against Miami. That is also at home. I don't see them. I could maybe see them winning a divisional game against the Dolphins, but I doubt it. I don't see them winning either one of those two. And then they play on the Jets on the road. That good luck. Cowboys on the road, again, good luck. New Orleans Saints at home. Sorry. They play against the Raiders. Okay, now you're getting to the second game of the season where you get to a maybe. A maybe. They play the Bills at home. I'm sorry. Dolphins again. But this one is at home. I mean, on the road. In Miami. Hot weather. I'm sorry. Going up against Commanders? No. Colts? Okay, I can actually have them winning that one. Giants? No. We can continue. They play the Chargers next. Steelers. Chiefs. Bills. Jets. Broncos. Out of what I just read out of that 6 games, and no, it wasn't in order because the Bills Jets part of it, that's last. Broncos is before all that. I see them winning one game, and that's against us. That's against Denver. I don't see how they can make it past the Chargers. I don't see how they make it past the Steelers. Chiefs, Travis Kelce's probably not out the entire season. I know they just lost a game that a lot of people didn't expect, but I don't. When I made my early season predictions for this team, I had them winning 3 games. Now I'm going to go ahead and read the comments. Yeah, I don't. Again, I don't see it. So I have Philadelphia winning it. I know I don't think it's close. Rams, Seahawks, not much to go off of that one. Cooper Kupp hurt. Seahawks added some really, really decent pieces on their squad. I have Seattle winning this. Now, when I made my early predictions, I picked the Rams as one of the only 2 wins I had them picking this entire season was against Seattle because I really wasn't as high on Seattle until I saw the preseason stuff. Dolphins, Chargers. So I have Seattle winning that one. Dolphins, Chargers. I'm also not as high on Miami this year as some people are. However, because they play in a tough AFC, and it's nothing really to do against the squad. It's just I just really think that AFC in general is going to be very talented. If you put the New Orleans Saints in this AFC squad, good luck. They might be, I think, maybe the 11th best team in this conference. But they're in the NFC. I put them at number 2. Second seed, which for me is the 3rd best team in the conference. Actually, fourth best team in the conference. Behind Seattle, Philadelphia. Now that I think about it, I'm actually going to put they're number 3. They're number 3. So it's getting kind of late in the night. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish off these picks a little bit faster. I have Miami losing to the Chargers. Chargers are at home. Then you go the Packers against the Bears. And not much to say. We don't know much. We haven't really seen much from Jordan Love, but I still get the Bears. Cowboys against the Giants. I got the Cowboys in this one. There's a lot more to like about Dallas with their additions. And then there's Bills against the Jets. And this one I'm going to talk a little bit more about because the Jets, they are at home. It falls on 9/11. And the Jets haven't had a Monday Night Football game in a long time. I don't think that this will be like 3 touchdown blowout. But I wouldn't be shocked if it were. I got the Jets by 10. Like 30-20, somewhere around there. That should be everything for today. This has been another episode of the Sports Status Podcast with your host, Nate the Great. Signing out for now, and see you on Saturday.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
For people that are on Facebook right now, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that like button for the Facebook page. Share the show. Comment your takes, even though the show's almost over after I end the stream. But I'm not done on I'm not just streaming this on Facebook, but I also streaming this on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button at the bottom, I think bottom right corner. So my left, your right. Twitch. On Twitch too. Twitter. Both on the All Sports All Plays side and for the Sports Status side on all 4 platforms. You find this show usually once, maybe twice a week, depending on what's all going on. And I'll see you guys later.